Hi there, everyone. Welcome to our discussion on sustainable manufacturing and how technology is helping us to lead the way. So thanks for joining us today. I'm your panel host, Poppy Brewer. I'm part of Accenture's sustainability strategy practice in London, and I focus on sustainable manufacturing topics. And for the next hour, I have the great pleasure of being with the panel in front of us today to talk about the topic of sustainable manufacturing. So I'm going to set 2 minutes of context, and then we'll do a round of intros. So I guess before we start, why are we talking about sustainability today? So the sustainability agenda has been growing somewhat exponentially over the last couple of years, accelerated by COVID's focus on social impact, and of course the climate crisis, which we're understanding and getting traction with on a wider and wider basis within society. And today we can see companies, including UK manufacturers, facing pressures from all different kinds of stakeholders now on becoming more sustainable. So there's pressure from consumers, there's pressure from employees to doing purposeful work. Then governments, investors, and communities are really all starting to ask for companies and manufacturers today to improve on how they manage the environment and manage society around their business. And so many companies are responding, like the companies that we've got with us represented today, with exciting corporate level commitments. But it's not an easy thing to become a sustainable manufacturer, and there's lots of questions and really problems to solve around how you tangibly go on that journey to deliver on those corporate targets. And so that's what we're going to focus on in today's session. We're going to explore what some of our innovative Northwestern companies are doing on their journeys to becoming more sustainable manufacturers. And we'd love to take questions from you, so please do pass them through and we'll happily answer them as a team. So without further ado, Ben, I'll hand to you and let's do a round of intros. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, your companies, and where you are on your sustainability journey today.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Ben, and thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to talk on a topic that I'm so passionate about and is so close to our heart. So yeah, thanks for that. I'm from Crystal Doors, and we manufacture doors for the kitchen, bed and bathroom industry. So that's us. We're an SME manufacturer in Rochdale in the north of England. And I'm the digital transformation program manager, which means that it's my job to run the digital transformation program, which is about bringing in new technology to make our processes more efficient and to allow us to do new things and reach new markets that we weren't able to before. And a big part of what I do is using new digital technology to make us at Crystal Doors more sustainable, better for the environment and for our local community. So that's something we're really passionate about. We're currently on a journey to becoming carbon neutral by 2022, which we're right at the end of that journey now. So we're almost there. We're just about to sort of push over the line there, but we don't plan to stop there. That's just our journey to carbon neutral. We want to keep going beyond that. We want to impact our whole supply chain, our customers, and really be a positive force in our community and for our planet. So I'll pass over to Phil now.
Hi, thanks a lot. I'm Phil from Creative Apparel. We've been going over 30 years. We supply clothing to a variety of different areas, fashion, sport, workwear. So it's really topical, especially clothing we're getting at the moment is killing the world. So it's perfect where we look at it that we are building a brand new eco factory that has got all the latest technology in it for eco, such as living walls, rooftop gardens, solar, rainwater harvesting. The list will bore you, but we're seriously going into this. We believe it makes total sense in business terms to invest in this because it pays back. Simple as that. With the technology that we're putting in, automation and everything else, we feel that we can reshore manufacturing back in the UK in textiles, which again, great for the carbon footprint. And I say it makes total sense to invest in this sort of technology. So over to Jamie.
Hi, thanks, Phil. My name's Jamie Baxter. I'm the director of a company called D8X, which is an alloy wheel repair business and body shop based in the northwest of England. We started 4 years ago, myself and another person. There's currently 34 of us across 4 locations in the United Kingdom. We use lots of gas, we use lots of electric, we drive lots of wheels up and down the country. So we're always kind of looking for ways to be a bit more efficient. We were in receipt of a free Made Smarter grants in the end now, which we've managed to digitize our process, makes us more efficient. Hence, we can use a little bit less gas, turn the ovens off when we want to, things like that. We can see where our pinch points are, where we need more people, or maybe we don't need more people, we need new equipment. And off the back of this, we've developed a modular wheel repair centre, which we have one in Colchester, and we have one that's in development at the moment, which is going to go on to a major car supermarket in the northwest of England. And our latest project is to try and find a way to run said pod off a green form of green hydrogen generation. So we've got all kinds of things I could bore everyone to death with, but I'll pass over to David, and I look forward to people's questions. Thanks.
Morning. Thank you very much for having us. My name is David Reardon. I'm from Blooming Box. We're a UK design and manufacturing business which specialises in injection moulding. We have in-house expertise ranging from product design, 3D printing, CNC production of mould tools, and we also have an electronics specialist and robotics specialist in-house. The company has an ethos to manufacture products with minimum impact to the environment and to be as sustainable as possible. Our mantra is always to design products with more than one life. We invest very heavily in energy-efficient machinery and try and have processes that leave as little impact on the planet. One of the projects we're currently working on is a reusable face mask to help with the current pandemic. Thank you. Back to Poppy.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Okay, so we've had some exciting questions coming in from the team already. So I'm going to kick off with the 2050 deadline. So as we know, in the UK, we're really aiming to be net zero by 2050, a pretty ambitious goal. And the first question that's come in is, do we think that the 2050 deadline is an achievable goal? So I'm gonna pass this one to Ben. With your 2022 carbon neutral target, I would imagine and I hope that for you guys at Crystal Doors, the answer is probably yes. So it would be great to hear a bit about how, I suppose, did you set your target? And what kind of strategy have you been following to get there? So how are you combining maybe technology-led reductions with carbon offsetting in order to reach that 2022 goal?
Sure, yeah. So our journey to carbon neutral started in 2015. And that really kicked off with our managing director, Richard Hagan, who many of you might have heard of before for all of his, all the stuff he does on sustainability. I think he was sort of personally challenged back then about the climate crisis, about sustainability, and about the role that manufacturing plays in carbon emissions. Obviously, as we know, about 15% of UK carbon emissions come from manufacturing. And so back then he was challenged around that. He switched over to electric cars, not flying abroad, stuff like that. But he sort of became aware that becoming carbon neutral isn't something that just has to be for the big companies and not something that just comes from having loads of money to throw around, but actually it's something that can be cash flow positive, and it's something that can be for SMEs. And so at that time, our team set this agenda that we have for 2022. And really, we looked around at the big companies at the time that were sort of doing this sort of thing and saw that they had, 20, 30-year goals. And we thought, well, if we can do this in 7 years, that really proves that this is possible for everyone. And so sort of in answer to that question, I really do think that the 2050 deadline is achievable. And I think the biggest barrier is just convincing people that it's achievable. Because if everyone gets on board now and starts investing in this, then we can do it long before that and in a way that's cash flow positive, as all of our technological advancements, have allowed us to do so far. All of everything that we've done has been cash flow positive. So some examples of that. I know you were asking Poppy about how we sort of use a technology-led approach. And that sort of is a reference to a lot of the big companies. So you'll see many, like, for instance, Microsoft releasing their new carbon neutral goal. And if you actually read into that goal, they sort of say about all the carbon reductions that they've done in the last couple of years. But you actually look at what those are, and all they've done is paid other companies to offset the carbon that they're still producing and pumping into the atmosphere. So our approach really has been we don't want to use carbon offsetting any more than we absolutely necessarily have to. What we want to do is not put the carbon into the atmosphere in the first place. So we've invested in technologies such as we've installed a biomass burner, which burns all of our waste and converts that into heating. So all of our heating's free. We've got solar panels on the roof, which don't just mean that we don't pay anything for energy, but we also supply that back to the grid as well. Our dust extractor, which used to run 24/7, is now an IoT smart system using obviously new technology, that intelligent technology that controls itself. All of these things have been saving us lots of money, while over the last 5-6 years, we've reduced almost 80% of our carbon emissions already. So yeah, I do think it's sustainable for companies of all sizes, especially with help from people like Made Smarter, which have been really good for us over the last couple of years.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I think that's a really positive note to start on, that we do think it's achievable for SMEs. In your answer, you mentioned about how a big part of getting started in reaching your goal was making sure that your employees were educated and engaged around kind of the sustainability agenda. I was going to ask Jamie, maybe ask you a bit more about kind of how you've educated and engaged with your employees on the sustainability agenda so far, and perhaps how Made Smarter is helping you to do that.
I think in terms of employee engagement, I think it starts at the top with us, really, and Made Smarter has certainly enabled us, has opened up a network that we just didn't know existed to the SME. In terms of our employees, that's for us to transcend down. But sometimes in some of the jobs we do are quite, I wouldn't say mundane, but they're quite repetitive and stuff like that. So what we've tried to do, like the basic stuff like Ben was talking about, like we changed everything to LEDs. Well, we can see our work better. The workshop looks better, and we got our electricity bill and it was less. So the really simple. I kind of look at it from an SME perspective, a smaller business perspective. We in terms of education of our employees per se, they just start. It's just a journey that we've started, and they can see the changes coming in. And that's as much as I suppose I could say about that side of it. In terms of engagement, it's more been about us engaging as a business and understanding what's available, and then implementing some of that. We've only been doing this for about 18 months, but some of the changes we've made as a business are quite fundamental. From the stripping solutions that we use aren't a really horrendous acid. Well, that's good for our guys, and they can see that comes in. But it's really quite granular stuff at times. But I think, even into the granular, you look from a bigger picture, that's great. But even the granular stuff, that's kind of where we're in and around at the moment. That's where our project is leading us as a business.
Okay, so it's kind of complementing that, like, I guess, company level ambition with, like you say, Jamie, really practical action in order to get everyone educated and engaged on this journey. Yeah. Okay, another question in from the team is kind of building on that. So how are SMEs like yourselves raising awareness of the net zero deadline? So I guess, like, how are you connecting maybe with your customers or your suppliers in order to drive this kind of sustainability agenda? And are there other partners or channels that you're working with as well? So David, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Yeah. In terms of making customers aware, I think sometimes it always comes down to price, and everybody sort of says, "Oh, how much?" So we try and make the products to start with fit the bill, and then sell them with the sustainability backed on top. So for something like our floristry boxes, we set out with the design brief to make it out of recycled household waste. We then invented a method of covering the household waste so that we could create a product that we could sell to the customer, which was made from recycled, reusable, and reusable again. That's that sort of complete circle of life. And we started this very much what Ben was saying from there is a huge financial incentive to do this. It's not simply that it's going to cost you money and you get nothing back for it. So we use very energy efficient machines, which we started our journey with the Carbon Trust. And happily now, Made Smarter has come along, and we're able to pick up on, additional funding and expertise and help. and the new machinery is even more efficient. In some cases, 60%. And 20 years ago, when we started this, people laughed at us and said, why are you buying such expensive electric machines when you can buy cheaper hydraulic machines, which use a huge amount more electricity? The price rises in electricity have made that very obvious as a good choice. And I think what Ben was saying is exactly right. If you do it now and do it early, you arrive later on with products that actually fit the bill, and it sort of goes to the next product and the next product, and you can always end up with something that the customer isn't forced to buy but actually wants to buy. And that's what we try and do, rather than saying you must buy this because you will save the planet. It's you can buy this. Oh, and by the way, added onto that is a little bit of a bonus for you.
That's brilliant. I think that's such an interesting insight on how, the strength of engaging with customers, and I guess maybe other stakeholders as well, based on both economic value and sustainability, and actually where those fit together so that it makes sense and there's nothing in conflict. And I think that's a theme that we're seeing in many companies. Like, where can we find that economic and ESG sweet spot where we're actually typically saving cost or generating revenue at the same time as exploring new sustainability opportunities? So thanks for that, David. And just, I guess, building on this idea of kind of influencing our wider stakeholder network then. So another question that's come in: it's great to see manufacturers working to become more sustainable. How do we ensure that our supply chain takes a similar approach? So for this one, Phil, I was thinking, obviously you're working within the fashion industry. As an industry, it's taking some big moves to become more responsible, and a lot of that is obviously tracing back to the raw materials in the supply chain and the sort of tier 1 to end network. So what's your perspective on how you can help the supply chain think more about sustainability?
It's a very complex one, textiles, because it starts from the farmers who grow the crop, who aren't paid enough, that also how it's grown, the chemicals to have it organic is another thing, and then to the actual manufacturer of the product, how it's manufactured, that they're supplied, paid correctly. Also the manufacture of the fabric, how much water it's used. Then it goes back into actually selling it when you finish with it, how you recycle it. So it's a whole cycle that a lot of work has been done with it, using recycled cotton and also plastics recycled and put into the fabric. So it's quite a lot of work goes into that cycle. But we feel on our side that we're doing is our little bit where we're trying to be totally self-sufficient, not using any utilities, water, electricity, everything self-sufficient. What we're trying to be in our factory, that's the ultimate goal. And also, that's been the hard thing that we're trying to do. And it's been a journey of, it's sort of grown organically, how we come about to end up where we are making this eco factory. So I hope that answers.
Great, thanks, Phil. Yeah, just in terms of engaging your supply chain. So, okay, I guess self-sufficiency is definitely one way that you can kind of, I guess, reduce the dependency. I guess, Ben, from Crystal Door's perspective, what steps, I guess, have you taken building on Phil's points on the supply chain engagement?
Sure, yeah. I think supply chain engagement is absolutely crucial, and I think I agree with everything Phil was saying about how important it is. At the end of the day, we can make our processes as sustainable as we like, but if our customers are going to get the products and throw them into a river the next year, or if our suppliers are cutting down rainforests or pumping loads of carbon into the atmosphere, then we can't really just wash our hands of that and claim that we're having a good impact on the environment. So one of the things that we're doing this year is we're actually going to stop working with all of our suppliers and all of our customers as well who aren't also committed to sustainability, because we want our whole supply chain to sort of be invested in this. Now, that doesn't mean that we're just going to stop selling to people who don't commit to sustainability and just cut them all out. That's not our goal. Our goal is to actually continue working with everyone, but also bring them on the journey. Now, our approach to that means that to begin with, we're asking all of our customers, all of our suppliers to sign up to sustainability commitments. And we'll sort of be working with them over this year to understand what that means, how they can do that, how they can implement that. And to support this, we've actually got 2 university studies being done this year on our processes and our supply chain. And those are both about supply chain sustainability and circular economy. So we've got one master's project on the use of like 3D printing and other materials for circular economy, and another one about supply chain sustainability. That's a lot of S's there. So yeah, we wanted to take a technology-led approach and really invest in it, and then we want to give that to our entire supply chain. This is not about us cracking down on people. This is about us investing in our partners, investing in the people we're working with, and helping lift them up along with, you know, the whole industry.
Ben, have you? After you, David.
I was just going to say, just picking up on the sort of the direct supply. One of the things we've been doing is working with companies that make some biopolymers that aren't actually suitable for the purpose at the moment. So we've done quite over the last 2 years. We've been trialing materials that technically aren't for our industry and trying to apply them to products within our industry in a small way to try and prove that it can work. So we're almost saying, going out to the market and saying what else is out there that we might be able to use, as well as the sort of the high tech, the robotics and so on. There are also the slightly more mundane, the raw materials. Where does it come from? The plastic bags scenario you were on about before from sugarcane is a good example. There are plenty of uses, and sometimes you can take materials that are being used for something else and then find that they can be adapted to do something that you actually want them to do as well. So we're very much keen on experimental work, as well as taking the standard routes that, waiting for a supplier to come to us and say, we have the following polymer, are you able to use it? We're almost going to them and saying, we want the following polymer. What have you got and how could we use it?
David, that's a great point actually on the materials side of things. So obviously with this kind of changing sustainability agenda, there's a lot more materials available on the market that maybe weren't previously, in terms of biomaterials, green materials, recyclable content. How have you found, I guess, exploring these new materials, and how have you as a company been able to kind of understand, I guess, what's out there and new, and then assess to what extent it can meet the specifications that you need?
First of all, we research them, so we find out what's there, and then we try and apply them to a product. Sometimes it is simply a test product that really isn't going to do anything other than prove whether it can physically function. I guess if you were to say it was a piece of material, can it be sewn? Can it not be sewn? Can it be heat sealed and so on? And then once we've got them, we keep them in the background. So, for example, the one we're working on at the moment is a home compostable plastic that up until now hasn't been molded into solid products. It's used in other products, but we've been able to turn that into something that can be molded, and therefore we can now start to look at other products, maybe food trays, pots, etc. There's also plastics with wood in, so you can also get polymers from wood, polymers that are both petrochemical and biopolymers at the same time. So some of them go nowhere, and you have wasted a large amount of time finding out that they don't go anywhere, but they may come back in the future. So it's a case of trial and error, research, and see which ones can do the job.
Brilliant, thanks, David. So to slightly move to, I guess actually to wrap up on the supply chain topic first. So I think it's clear that actually upstream of manufacturers, you can have a huge amount of carbon footprint, of water use, and of social impact. So it's super important that we think about our supply chains. And like Ben described, I suppose we see a lot of companies taking the first step of setting targets with their suppliers. And then we see some of maybe the more advanced companies also starting to think about shared power purchasing agreements for renewables that they can open up for their supply chain, trying to increase visibility with technology as well. So getting a better understanding of the supply network beyond just your tier one, to make sure that responsibility for sustainability is in the wider network as well. And I guess joining up suppliers too. So there's always been the supply management and development programs for conventional kind of typically financially driven reasons, but how can we embed environmental, social, and governance targets into how we collaborate with suppliers and into how we develop our supply chains as well. And we're seeing many players in this field starting to set up almost these ESG innovation programs where the suppliers can interact and share innovations, I guess, like the ones that David was speaking about on materials and on other sustainability topics as well. So thank you for that question on supply chain. We've got another question in now to slightly change topic onto measurement. So the question reads, measuring your carbon footprint is really difficult. So how have the panel measured their footprints? And are there any useful tools out there which might be able to help me? So I saw a bit of a smile from a couple of the team. Does someone want to step forward to make a start on this one?
I could tackle that from an SME perspective if you wanted. I'd just counter by saying it actually isn't that difficult. There are government schemes out there at the moment where they will come and do a carbon assessment of your business. And I think they're grant funded as well. So if I think, I can't off the top of my head, I can't remember which the one is for Lancashire, but they'll come out and they'll review your business and they'll look, like, for example, we have industrial powder coating ovens and they suggested like air traps to stop the heat getting out. They looked at the electricity usage. They looked at the amount of gas we were using and when we were using it and if we were using it inefficiently. We'll look at our lighting. I know, yes, it could be difficult if you didn't know where to go for the information. But if you were on a journey with Made Smarter or you were involved in we're based in Chorley and Lancashire Council, Chorley Council specifically, are really, really good. And there's lots of environmental support out there. And if you wanted to know where you stood, there is an organisation that will come and do that for you. We've had it done.
I can confirm with the same thing. We've had they're currently mapping ours as well. And I think, like Jamie was saying, if you look at some of the, even just the simple things, your electricity bill tells you where an awful lot of it's going, your gas bill. So even while you're waiting for someone to come along and say, we think this is going wrong or that's going wrong, you can sort of look at the bill and say, actually, if I put in a different lighting system or a different compressed air system, they'll all help reduce that footprint, but they will come in, as Jamie said, and map it for you.
Also, as well, worth mentioning that not only will they come and map your business, but there's support grants for doing some of these changes. Like we got 33% towards all our LED lights. Well, we spent 15 grand on lighting, so we got £5,000 support towards that. You know, and you don't have to be 100% on day one. You know, if you change your lighting and you're using less gas and you're being conscious of it, there's a movement started, and then there's a development within your business to sort of have a different mindset. And there's nothing wrong with making profit. You know, if you save some money and you make more and you make some profit and you get a grant towards it, hey, you were better off than you were when you weren't doing it. And the support's free.
Yeah.
That's Ben?
Can I contribute as well? In terms of also sort of taking the measuring of our carbon emissions and our carbon reductions sort of a step further, I think Industry 4 technology actually gives us a great opportunity to do this sort of thing, especially for SMEs. So with Industry 4 technologies, one of the pillar technologies behind that is IoT, the Internet of Things. And it's sort of, we're at this great point really where we can get sensors for a couple of quid each. And there's lots of open source software packages and frameworks and structures out there. And there's a really easy opportunity for small businesses like ours and medium-sized businesses to be able to invest in IoT technology. And what that allows us to do, in line with sort of Industry 4 goals, is to capture data on everything. So on all of our processes, on all of our carbon emissions, on all of our carbon reductions, even all of these things, we can actually be collecting live data on it very easily and very cheaply. So one thing that my team is working on at the moment is we're developing an IoT sensor network where we're connecting up to, well, on the one hand, we're connecting up to all of our machines and all to measure all of the energy usage of all of our machines, the productivity of the machines, the efficiency, predictive maintenance and stuff like that. So it's going to be great for our production process. But further to that, we're hooking sensors up to everything, and we're trying to target all of the places where we're emitting carbon, all the places where we're reducing it, and we're building a dashboard specifically for sustainability, where in real time, live, you'll be able to see all of the areas we're emitting carbon, all of the areas we're reducing it, and we want to sort of have like a dashboard where you can see the fight for carbon neutrality on a daily, weekly basis. And that's something that we want to make available to all of our employees, so they can see what we're doing that's positive and negative of the environment, and also eventually, linking with our website for full transparency, so that our customers, our suppliers, all of our partners in industry can see what we're doing to do that fight for sustainability, and hopefully that will inspire other people as well. But the technology is there now for us to put a little bit of investment in and see like some really high level, really powerful data actually that can drive this transformation.
Can I jump in there, because that it sort of links back to the Made Smarter grant that we got for our molding machine. It's a new machine from FANUC, and they have that built into the system, and that's really why we went for it. It allows us in real time to monitor what's happening and actually to intervene and control, even when we're not next to the machine. We can be anywhere so long as we've got internet connection. So I agree with Bennett, and that was directly from Made Smarter. They walked us through it, helped us through it. So it's been a great process, and it's the next generation. Whilst just saying this is a little bit more energy efficient, you now can say this is a little bit more energy efficient, and it can do this, and it can tell you this, and this is what you could do if you could change that bit, and so on. So I'm quite with that.
Sure, yeah. Sorry, go on, Phil.
No, go on, Ben. Carry on.
I was just in agreement. Like it not only it makes the processes themselves more efficient, but when you're able to expand that to a whole network, and you can measure what are we generating on our solar panels, what are we generating from our biomass burner, how much carbon emissions are we outputting right now from our vans minute by minute as they're driving down the roads. What energy is going through our LED lighting right now. You can monitor every single one of these and create a full picture, so that it's not just estimation, it's not just guesswork, but you can have the cold hard facts. And that's both cost savings, that's both efficiency, allowing you to do more production every week, have a more efficient factory, as well as being positive for the environment. Sorry, Phil. Over to you.
Yeah, I think the way we looked at it is, I didn't really look at carbon offset, really. I looked at how much pounds and pence will I save. If I invest in solar, what's the payback? 2-3 years. If I rainwater harvest, taking water off the roof and reusing it in the factory, what's the cost saving over the investment? Putting skylights in, it gets rid of a bit of light. Again, cost saving. LED, there's so many things you can do to offset. And I kind of look at pounds and pence more than offset, because if you're saving raw materials going in the factory, it's bringing your cost down, is what you're trying to do. And you make your stuff more competitive, plus it's saving the world as well. It's a win-win situation. And I do believe that it's not I've got a saying that you've got to be in the red to be in the green, so you need to invest to make these things happen.
I think I joined the guys there as well. Part of the Made Smarter project for us, it wasn't aimed at being green, I don't think, when we started off. It was aimed at being more efficient. And the software system that we developed with those guys, and they had AMRC, the chaps up at Preston, which is a subsidiary of Sheffield University, who have been really good for us, they built us a software system where we scan each wheel at each stage of the process. If it's taking the tyre off, if it's our lathe, if it's being stripped, and then we can see where stuff is. So it's almost like that Mission Impossible moment, where it's hanging down and it's trying to look at it. You can satellite up in your business, but if you've got a small business, you don't really know where everything is at any given time. You've got a bit of a feel for it, but you're looking at that looks bad over there. But really, what you want to see, and it goes back to the data, is seeing which areas are efficient, which areas aren't. Do we have enough staff there? Have we not? Have we got some training issues? Is there stuff like that? And so then you start thinking efficiently as a business, and it drives your thinking. We went from a very basic putting this system in to like building modular wheel repair centers that were trying to run off hydrogen. It's just the mindset. it's a mindset shift to efficiency for us, which is then led on to other green projects. And I can see, like Ben, the guys at Crystal Doors, that they're further up the road than us, but there's some correlation here between being efficient, making more profit, being more green. What's wrong with that?
That's brilliant. I think we've got a great range of answers to that question then about measuring carbon footprint. So it sounds like we've got the Lancashire scheme, I believe run by the East Lancashire Chamber. Also, Making Carbon Work is another group that can help with that upfront carbon measurement for the kind of top-down piece. But like Ben mentioned, then there's the opportunity to kind of combine IoT with advanced equipment technology, with analytics, and combining all of that data so that you can actually get that bottom-up data-driven view. Ben, just to sort of maybe close on this one, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the tools that you actually use? So you mentioned that you've built a dashboard based on the IoT data that you're gathering across the equipment. Could you give us a little more detail on kind of the different parts of that solution, and maybe where the challenges came, if there were challenges of getting that set up?
Sure, yeah. So so for us, again, like the step into IoT, like the other guys here, was driven primarily by wanting to make our processes more efficient. So we started off by looking to hook all of our machines up, and we're currently working on that right now. We're in like our sort of our testing phase of our machine monitoring network. And that's where it started. And then from then, that gave us the idea, wait a minute, if we can do this for our machines, why can't we do this for everything and put a sustainability spin on this as well? So that's when we started to look at, okay, let's build a separate network and a separate dashboard that draws from this first one, but is focused on sustainability and where we're making those gains. But yeah, I guess with IoT, it can be a difficult one to know where to start. There's lots of companies out there that promise IoT development, and lots of companies that put a big price tag on it. But we also know that these sensors are very cheap, so it can be a difficult one to navigate. And for us, it was we did the development in house. So I've got a background in robotics, and through Made Smarter, we brought on a intern who is a computer scientist, and he does like forensic computing and cybersecurity. And together we've been working on developing this, and we decided that we'd take the cloud approach. So it's drawing on more technology. What we're actually doing is currently decommissioning all of our on-site servers, which have their own risks associated, are very expensive, and we're going to cloud computing. So once we finish connecting all of our machines on our factory, they'll all be sending the live real-time data on their efficiency, on even their vibration, their temperature, all of the metrics. They'll be sending that to the cloud, and on the cloud, we've used open source technology for not only for dashboarding, but we're looking to now build machine learning, artificial intelligence algorithms to do our predictive maintenance measuring. So again, predictive maintenance is something that will provide massive savings in terms of not having to shut down the production line, or parts of the production line, should I say, at awkward times, but actually being able to do the maintenance scheduled in when we're not relying on those machines for production. That's massive savings, and it makes the whole maintenance a lot cheaper in itself as well. But again, that's drawing on another technology there using machine learning, which is scary, but there are loads of actually great people out there. We've got some partners lined up for developing that. And actually, I think we're at a place now where machine learning for predictive maintenance is viable for SMEs. And it's viable because of the data that we're able to collect through IoT monitoring. For machine learning to be effective, you need the data. And once you've got the data, you can use that to do prediction like you just couldn't do without the technology. There's no way that I could predict that maintenance. Sorry, does that answer the question? Awesome. I hope I didn't go on a tangent too much.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a super exciting theme that's coming out of this efficiency stuff, right? So in order to become efficient, when we connect a lot of equipment together and have that visibility that Jamie was speaking about, which has it seems from the team on the phone, is sort of originated in financial efficiency savings. It's actually a natural platform for carbon emissions reduction, because there is inherently that link between the consumption side of cost reduction and the environmental impact and the material carbon impact that you're having. And definitely, actually, Ben, I think the predictive maintenance, machine learning and AI piece is kind of the cherry on that cake, right? So with these new kinds of technologies, you can use pretty advanced techniques to actually identify unusual patterns in the performance of equipment as well, which means that you can find those carbon hotspots or those inefficiencies early, which is going to save you on cost, but also make sure that you're not inefficiently using up materials or carbon in your process through this kind of artificially intelligent, I guess like predictors of where you're going to find problems and therefore how to resolve them in advance. So a super cool area, and another example, I guess, of where technology and sustainability really go hand in hand. Okay, so we're gonna change topics somewhat. We've had a question in from the team on government messaging. So we've touched on this slightly, but the question is the messaging from government inconsistent and therefore not helping? So, Jamie, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Is the messaging from government inconsistent and therefore not helping? I think it depends where you go for your information. And as a business person, how open-minded you are to the opportunities that some of the government support presents to you. I don't look per se at headline centralized government messaging. I think as a business owner, I have to do a little bit more than that. And if I want the support from the business, from the government to my business, I have to do a little bit of work myself. I have to commit to some of we were a member of the chamber. We were closely involved with our local council, and these guys their job is to help you. I don't think it's inconsistent messaging. I think it's more. I don't think it's the messages you should look for. I think it's the network you should try and access. So, in terms of inconsistent messaging, I don't know. I wouldn't have said so. I don't agree with that. I think the support we've had, local government-backed support, and Made Smarter as a government-backed project, I think they're actually the complete polar opposite of that. I think they're really supportive. I think they put you into a really good network. And as a business, when we first started doing this, some of the stuff they sort of made us aware of, I didn't think would be appropriate for our business. I'm thinking, well, we're not like Ben's got, like crystal doors are bigger than us, right? So, but I'm looking and thinking, right, well, how could we do something like that? It's available to you. The stuff is there, it's out there, but at the same time, as a business owner, it's kind of your responsibility to go and find it.
I guess any more advice from the team on getting that government advice? So I think that's brilliant steer, Jamie, that is maybe where you're looking rather than the messaging actually being inconsistent, and that there is help available if you're looking through the right channels. Any other advice?
There is definitely help there. We've used Innovate UK as well, so I think the departments are there within the structure, which you can access. And whilst they are time-consuming and quite complicated in some methods, I would step back and say, well, if you can earn that sort of capital input any other way, I mean, it's actually quite good. It works. It puts the money in. It starts the projects. And I think the message that the government give out is maybe a little ambitious and lacks a little bit more detail. It's more of an ambition. I certainly think the electric car concept. Nobody's saying where the electric comes from, but then it can be done. The technology is all there. There isn't really a problem with the technology not being in existence. We don't have to reinvent anything. We just have to use it in the right way. And I think the more that they put into small projects, the likes of our business, Jamie's, his is a small, we're the same. those little steps, if you do it with everybody, it's a massive increase. And some of them can be really very simple. Just that, a very small step from, a one-man band can have an effect. And if there are lots of them, then that ambition can be met. It's just that everybody has to be involved, and everyone has to say, as Jamie said, go out and look for it. It's not just going to arrive and suddenly happen. People have actually got to do something and say, we'll make a conscious change here, and we'll switch to this, or we'll not do that in future, or we'll try not to do that in future even. So I think it is there. You just got to look for it. Made Smarter, Innovate, etc., all of which have been extremely helpful to us.
Yeah, we've had a lot of help from, say, Innovate, Made Smarter particularly. We've had the Growth Hub, which is, I don't know, just in Manchester.
Yeah,
we are working with universities as well, with Salford, Liverpool, Cambridge. We're working with all these universities. There's another thing called knowledge transfer, which you can get a PhD student involved in your business. If you've got absolutely no technical skill in your business, you can bring these people in. There is a cost, probably about £20,000, but those people probably cost you £100,000. But there are help out there for businesses, but it's very hard when you're starting off not knowing anything about it, thinking I need to go green or I need what help there is, because people don't really understand it, I find. But if you speak to Made Smarter or your Growth Hub or any of these local places, they are really there to help get where we need to get. And I think it's important that people get there to get this thing moving, really.
Excellent. Okay, we've got a tricky one for the floor. So we've spoken a bit about carbon measurement, our efficiency program so far. Question is, has anyone implemented carbon efficiencies but found they've actually had a negative effect? And I guess, this is a bit of a theme with sustainability as a new topic, is that actually beyond just carbon, there's a huge amount more priorities that we as manufacturers now need to think about. So I think there is a real challenge around working out whether should you be investing in water efficiency versus energy efficiency versus waste, and just understanding the value case for doing that. But so has anyone found or had a case where a carbon efficiency program has maybe had a bit of a unexpected side effect or not work for some reason, and there's lessons from that?
Can I jump in at the first on that? It's not a negative, but it wasn't unexpected. So we have quite a high level of automation. We use robots on pretty every single machine, and we also have a lot of automated packers. So as a result, we've always run a lot of the time lights out. So with the current pandemic, when we hit last year where everyone's struggling greatly, we were able to keep running because we had nobody in there at all. So it's an unexpected result from an unusual situation. But I think we haven't had any negatives. I think so long as you plan it properly and you don't do something just because you can. We're all of us here, Phil, Ben, Jamie, we're all saying it's financial. We're not just doing it because it's helping the world and so on. The reality is we're saving money. But as Phil said, you've got to spend the money to start with. We spent the money in a lot of cases a long time ago and got an unexpected result, which was when we're supposed to shut. And, actually we could say, well, technically we're fine here. We can provide you with these products that you still need in the UK, not made abroad and then shipped in, and we're automated. And I think that's a lot of people are frightened of robots and robotics, and they think it's going to take the jobs away. We look at it in a different way. We think that the robot simply takes the job you don't want to do, so it leaves you time to do the job that you do. And in this case, it was not be next to people.
That's a really interesting point, David. And actually I think raised an interesting piece there on how environmental and social priorities sometimes have kind of like a knock-on effect. So, if you were to automate things without thinking about upskilling or reskilling of the workforce, it could end up that it had a negative impact socially, even though environmentally and from a cost perspective it made sense. So could you give us just maybe a couple of minutes on how you how you helped your team to avoid that risk, because I like the way that you described it. It's getting rid of a job that people do not want to do. But the flip side of that is obviously helping people to find, learn about and upskill in the new spaces that you want them to work. So how did that work for you at Blooming Box?
So if you take a very simple example of running a molding machine, you could have somebody standing by all day, every day, 24 hours a day, taking components, stacking them, packing them, wrapping them. All of that can be done by a robot. That person is then free to go off. It doesn't get rid of somebody or deprive somebody, but it does make, they can learn new skills. We have people at the moment that we're sending on set of training courses. They've never done any of that before, but they're free to do that. If they're tied up, it also gives them something else to do rather than, as I say, just the basic job. A supermarket checkout is an example of where you have a self-service, but then there's plenty of other jobs still to go. So I don't think people should be frightened of robotics and automation. They should see it as a way possibly to an easier life. We don't think twice about using a standard cooker rather than lighting a fire and going through the rigmarole of something. It's just a new method of doing something, and it embrace it. Mobile phones, everything. So long as they're used properly and people are trained, and then find something else for them to do, they get upskilled as an automatic result.
I think just jump in there on that one as well. It's almost the quality of work. Like we've put an industrial track system in, so we used to hang our wheels in an oven on a hook. And someone had to pull them in and out with, heat-proof gloves on and stuff. Well, ours go around on a conveyor belt now. It's a lot less wear and tear on the individual. It's actually healthier for the people that work for us. So automation makes the job less wear and tear on the person. And in some of the more mundane tasks, if you can automate it and it's not as strenuous on the individual, I don't think that. I think that's a real plus. Just off the back of what David was saying, we not quite to that level, but we've done some automation, and God, it's miles better. It's just easier on everyone.
Yeah, we look at it, get rid of repetitive jobs. That's what you need to do. Who wants to do thing 1,000 times an hour? Give that to the robots. We're good at thinking about things, and what we're trying to do, which is a hard bit for staff to understand, because the fear of robotic, is cultural change. And that is one of the hardest things we have ever done to try and change the way of people thinking, because everybody thinks robots take jobs. I don't look at it that way. Robots gives humans what we're best at: creativity, ideas, enjoyment. And this is what we're aiming at with robots. They'll make life better. That's how I see it.
On that positive note from Phil, and I think that's a really important message, actually, that when we're thinking about environmental change, we should be thinking about social change and just always have those as one piece, not something that we look at in isolation. And the same with the economics as well. It's really about having this wider view of value and make sure that everything we do environmentally, socially, and financially together stacks up, and we understand the business case. I think that's how we can make these no regret moves in sustainability. Okay, so we have 7 minutes left in the session. I think to finish, it might be nice if we could have, so one of the questions that's just come in, what are the first steps, or an ideal first step for someone who wants to work to be more sustainable but doesn't know where to start? And I think another question maybe that would be interesting is, what next for you? So both ends of the spectrum, I suppose. Where should people get started? A moment of advice on that. And what's the kind of most cutting edge, most exciting thing that you guys are looking at in the sustainability space next? So we've only got a minute and a half each, so we're going to have to keep it snappy. But I'd like to do a quick roundtable on those, couple of questions each. So Jamie, do you want to get us started?
Where would you find the information? Well, don't suffer in silence. Made Smarter is a good one. Your local council, Innovate. All the ones that the guys have touched on. You don't worry about what do I do next. Go and see these guys, get them into your business, and they'll tell you. And you can make an informed decision, and you can spend as much or as little as you want. It's that straightforward. What are we doing in the future? We've built this modular wheel repair system that we're trying to dot around the country. We've currently got nearly 1,000 hours of support on 2 students up in Lancaster. We've teamed up with a PhD fellow to try and find a way to make said wheel repair pod work on a green form of hydrogen. And we would like to see which is the most efficient forms of green hydrogen. So that's going to be our future project, because we'd like to be able to drop these modular businesses. It doesn't have to be a wheel repair centre. It could be anything really. We want to be able to use we want to be able to deploy these businesses anywhere, and they don't need to go on the grid. So you can use any kind of space to drop a business onto using green hydrogen. That's our blue sky thinking. Come back to me in about 18 months, 2 years. And if I'm on the beach in the Bahamas, it went really well. And if I'm not, then we can talk about it some more.
Awesome. Love that. Localization with hydrogen coming away from Jamie. Thanks, Jamie. Ben?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I'd echo what Jamie said. I mean, it's coincidental that this is genuinely the advice I give. Get Made Smarter and get them to digital road mapping with you. They'll analyze your business. They'll help you set up a roadmap. Really easy, 100% worth it. Second of all, I would say, even if you're a small to medium enterprise, get yourself a digital transformation manager. Get someone who's, or at least a digital champion, someone who's able to come in, look at what you're doing and work out how do we get digital tech in here? Because it's tech that we need to be able to lead the way on making these advancements and still having it profitable, and becoming future thinking. And yeah, the final question, what have we got coming up? Well, in the next couple of years, 24/7 production with automation. We're just about to hit carbon neutral, and we're going to go beyond that, impacting our supply chain and our customers. And yeah, the impact assessment is big for us. We want to be giving back to our local community, investing in and upskilling our staff and our employees. And yeah, but becoming a factory of the future, really.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Phil?
Yeah, I agree to all those things. I think the first one I'd recommend anyone, first step, make a phone call Made Smarter just to get it. Your first step is the most important thing you can do. The other thing what I would say, what our most exciting bit is our new eco factory, which is going to be unbelievable when it's built. It's going to break all the rules. No one's ever done this before. And the other one is our AI, which we're working on to predict fashion ahead of the curve before it, takes normally about 2-3 weeks. We'll get it the same day from all around the world. So those are my things that I'm looking forward to.
There you go.
Super cool, Phil. AI and an eco-design factory. It's just greedy.
Oh, it's all happening.
David, over to you.
My quick advice would be don't be afraid to get it wrong, and don't be afraid to ask the questions that you think you should know the answer to. Just ask them. If you don't ask, you'll never find out. So never be afraid to not know the answer or get it wrong. Most exciting new project, I think, is probably our reusable face mask. It's washable, usable, and we hope it'll help a lot with the pandemic. It was all funded by Innovate, and obviously Made Smarter have come in also to help us along with the production at the end.
Very good.
Very good. Products for social good. We have actually amazingly done that in record time, which I have to admit did not predict with my AI. So, Phil, do you want to give a couple more of what are the coolest, most exciting sustainability geared components of the new Eco Factory?
Well, we've got a rooftop garden because we can save water rates. We've got a living wall because we're rainwater harvesting and we need to use up the water that we're taking. So that's going on the living wall. We're growing crops internally in the offices, edible. And also we're having a drone landing to take product, because one of our customers is one of the ones who's ruined the world, Amazon. So we are setting up drone landing there. We've got solar, battery technology, wind power. You name it, it's there in this new product. We've got electric charging points, but also we're making it. We want people to use bikes, so we've got bike sheds, shower facilities, electric charging points for bikes, and also we believe as well it's like a WeWork type environment. I call it hybrid working, so people now are going to be more at home and in business. So we've designed the thing to cope with that as well. I won't bore you with any more.
Wow.
I've got a list of 30.
Phil, not boring at all.
I think I want one, Phil.
Come and join us. Anyone who wants to come round is welcome to have a tour of the factory when it's built. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's everyone listening to.
Fantastic. When's it come online, Phil?
We should be in there. With COVID not slowing us down, beginning of next year, about January, February.
Brilliant. Coming to you, 2022. Okay, so we're nearly up on time. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to say a massive thanks to our panelists today for fielding all these exciting questions and telling us about their sustainability agendas, warts and all the successes that they've had so far. And thanks to you all for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.